Hey, welcome everyone. Hey, this is a podcast that explores various aspects of addiction, potentially focusing on personal stories of recovery, scientific perspectives, societal impacts, or related topics. This podcast often features discussions with experts, individuals in recovery, therapists, and advocates to offer insights and support to those affected by addiction or seeking more information about it. Welcome to another episode of The Other Side of Addiction. We are here with the lovely Krista Stewart. And today's topic is jars of honey and ghee. Now, if you guys don't know what ghee is, I didn't know what it was either until a couple of months ago. So Krista is definitely going to explain. So Krista, thank you for doing round two because we had issues with the first show. So I really do appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule because I know you and Abe are really, really busy with a lot of stuff going on. So again, just thank you for your time.
Of course. Thanks for having me. I'm delighted.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I also want to say congratulations. You are AR, the other side of addictions, 300th episode. So thank you so much.
Woohoo! Woo!
Yeah. Yeah. I wish I had a golden Willy Wonka ticket to give you, but I don't.
Yeah, come on now.
Yeah. So our listeners know what the hell is ghee?
Yeah. Uh, so you probably, if you had Indian food before, you've most likely had ghee. So ghee is just clarified butter. It means that the milk solids and water are separated from the butter fat. So you're just left with a really pure, shelf-stable, brain-boosting butter fat. Tastes like butter.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. And from what I have been learning lately, butter is good for you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of shifts happening right now. A lot of people paying attention to nutrition and, second guessing kind of what we've been told and kind of shifting back to the basics. And for so long, we've been told, don't eat butter, don't eat red meat, all these things. And supplement them with all these newfangled seed oils and process this and process that. And it's like, and now we're finding, you know, diabetes and metabolic syndrome are on the rise. And it's like, wait, what what's happening here? Let's try and find the connection. And I think that, yeah, getting back to the basics, what is from nature, we are from nature. We should be eating what is from nature. So kind of just thinking more simply. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because I've also found out, probably gosh, in the last 6 months or so too, which it's another thing that we've been told that fat is bad for you. And
Hmm.
our brain is like, I don't know, 60 or 67% fat. So we actually need fat in our diet. Now, we're not talking unhealthy fat, but fat to help feed our brain because the show earlier we talked a little bit about nutrition and stuff also, and it's funny how we've been taught all our lives from just a very young age. We need to feed our bodies, right? We need to make sure our bodies are nourished. When all reality, it's our gut and our brain that we need to be feeding because that will take care of the rest of our body.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That gut brain connection that we always talk about. If the brain is off, you're stressed out. It's going to affect your gut. If you're not eating right and processed foods, it's going to affect the gut, which is going to affect your brain. So they're definitely connected.
Yeah. So before we get into what Hunghee really is, which is an amazing product, I'm going to put that out there right now. I've had some of your samples that you guys have given out at networking groups. Very, very tasty. Also, very, very good for you. And I love what you guys are doing. I love what it's all about. I support you 100%. What the heck got you going into this direction to want to do something different? Because my life in the past 15 years have completely changed to where I used to be as an individual, who I used to be, what I believed in, what I really thought I cared about, which was really nothing, to get on a path to where I'm so grateful to be on this path. And it's because of trauma or issues that, not good issues that have happened in my life that put me there, which I basically tell people I didn't put myself on it, God put me on it. you kind of had the same thing, right? Very active young woman and into sports injuries. So let our listeners know what got you going into this direction.
Yeah. Um, yeah, quite a roller coaster. I would say that I am grateful I had a really good foundation, which I think is unique. Good foundation meaning that my parents really valued organic local food. So we would shop at, the local farms and get really good organic grass-fed meats and organic fruits and vegetables. So I always knew that was important. But life is a roller coaster and you're not always under the guidance of your parents and you rebel and, and stuff like that. So, um, for me, my experience was more so that I started training for 2008 Olympics when I was 12. So I loved gymnastics. I started when I was 8 or 9 and progressed really, really quickly to the point that 12 years old, I was on the national team and my trajectory, I wanted, to win 2008 Olympics. Um, and so I was under the care of my coaches a lot of the time, 8 hours a day, six days a week. And anytime we traveled for camps and competitions, it was always with my coaches. And so our diets, when we were traveling, one, we weren't allowed to bring any food with us. They would go through our bags and make sure we had no snacks in there. We were weighed, of course, and yeah, dinners were chicken Caesar salad, no bread, no fats. We were told if we ate fat, we would get fat. So right then and there, I always feared fat, which a lot of people fear fat. Like you said, butter's bad for you, all these things, kind of these common phrases you hear a lot. So, yeah, chicken Caesar salad. And that was our dinner before competition. And then for breakfast, we were allowed to have pancakes with maple syrup before our 8 hour competition. And so backwards because, you know, you know that when you carb load, you're going to get a sugar spike and then you're going to crash fairly quickly, especially when you are burning off that energy. There's no fat to sustain that energy. You're going to crash. And so, after just an hour or two of the competition, I was just toast, exhausted, and still had the rest of the competition to go. So I do remember one time I was telling my mom, like, oh, they want us to eat pancakes. And she's like, well, you should have some fat and protein to balance that out. So why don't you, like, the carbs are good too, but why don't you get eggs on the side and some pancakes next time and see how you feel? And I was like, okay. So I went to order and my coach grabs me and goes, hold on to the waitress. No, you can pick one or the other. And so it was just like this weird thing, like this control and this idea of what our diet should be. And it just seemed very backwards. And I struggled with so much fatigue. I was exhausted all the time, and not to mention a ton of injuries. I've had 11 surgeries, 8 on my knees, 2 elbow, 1 ankle, and yeah, it's sad. I do find that a lot of gymnasts, especially the more old school training that I experienced, I think it's a little different now, was just like grind, grind, grind. It doesn't matter if you're injured, like keep pushing through, you push through, you push through. There's no such thing as injuries. So like that type of training mixed with poor nutrition was just a recipe for a disaster. And so when um so yeah, I guess long story short, and I can get into details about um even deeper into like why I decided to eventually start my own health food brand. But essentially through this experience and struggling so much, I guess I will tangent a bit. So I never made it to the Olympics. Lots of stuff happened. I had a surgery that paralyzed me for 2 years. I I ended up accepting a full scholarship to college. I went to college, and by the time I got to college, I was so hurt. My body hurt so bad just to like sit up out of bed in the morning or walk down the stairs. My feet and my bones, my back, like everything just hurt. So I was given ibuprofen essentially every day, like the intense high dose ibuprofen. I'm
Mhm.
not quite sure what that means. Uh, so I was given that every day just to get through practice. And then during competitions, I was given even more, like the maximum allowed amount that you could take in the certain time frames and then take another one. So when I graduated college, my gut was so destroyed. I anything I ate, it just upset me. And so that was despite the injuries and the fatigue, it was really like how messed up my gut was that I was like, oh my gosh, I got to fix this. And so I went down the rabbit hole of trying to figure out, trying different diets and trying supplements and detoxes and this and that. And it led me to, be vegan and do all these supplements. And then I went keto and then I kind of found this really happy medium a couple of years ago where it's just like a carnivore based diet where whole foods diet, paleo, it's kind of like combination. I don't Carnivore is more like just the meat diet, but I would say animal based diet, fruits and vegetables and just whole foods and stuff like that. So when but I will say in the process of correcting my adrenal fatigue, the keto for a temporary time or high fat, high protein was super helpful. And that's where I realized, oh, if I eat too much sugar, too many carbs, I tend to go backwards. It's consistently eat too much carbs and sugar. I tend to go backwards and that adrenal fatigue comes back and the body aches. So, so I know kind of where my thresholds are and it sucks. It takes a long time to figure these things out for ourselves, which is why it's so easy to just go to the doctor and they say, "Hey, take this pill and your problems are solved." Problems are solved. It causes other issues, but it fixes that. Whereas for me, I didn't want to just, I wasn't, my foundation childhood wasn't like you go and take a pill. It was like you figure out in your diet what your body needs and you fix it through your diet. So that is, what was always my goal to trial and error and figure it out. Okay, if I eat too little, I'll get tired. If I eat too much, I'll get tired. So it's like this fine line. If I work out a lot, then increase. It's all over the place, we're complicated beings and you really need to tune in to what's going on and figure these things out for yourself. Um, so along the lines of finding this and feeling the best I've ever felt in my whole life, I thought, wow, I really want to share this knowledge with the rest of the world, especially athletes, because that's my background and being an athlete. And I don't want athletes to feel the way I felt because you are stressing your body so much. So I, it, I was randomly hiking and I quit my job because I was like, what am I going to do with my life? I want to do something that I'm passionate about. What is the answer? And yeah, I was hiking with a jar of honey, a jar of ghee, and I was just eating scoops of it, get my good carbs, my good fat for like, my long 20-mile treks. And I was like, this is so good. Like this should be a thing. Like, is this a thing already? Can I find this? And it didn't exist. And I thought, why don't I create it?
There you go.
So yeah, that's kind of the long story to discovering, creating, inventing Hunghee.
And I never really heard of, I mean, I heard of honey, of course, but I never did really hear of ghee. I mean, even back in my bodybuilding competition days, I
Hmm.
mean, we freaking ate 5 meals a day. I mean, I was eating
Yeah,
every 2 to 3 hours, and of course, it's low portions and things like that. And then on Sundays, man, Sundays was my free day. I mean, I was eating cheeseburgers and fries and pizza and tons of ice cream, whatever I could get my hands on that was junk. I was eating it, you know.
yeah, yeah.
And I had never heard of all this amazing stuff that I know of now. Now, maybe back in late 90s, early 2000s, maybe that wasn't quite the thing, and really, I never even heard of Ghee until I heard you and Abe talking about it at a networking event. And I'm like, what the heck is this stuff? because I love
Yeah.
hiking as well, and I usually take like trail mix with me. That's trail mix or some fruits. That's what I have when I reach my destination, and some really
Yeah.
good water, of course, no water out of the tap. However, to have something like that to snack on that's also really good, that also boosts your energy, I mean, gosh, that's really good to know.
Yeah. I'm curious, like in the bodybuilding community, um, I thought the diet was always high protein and vegetables. And there's kind of no place for fat in bodybuilding, at least back then. Or like you said, like in the early 2000s, the low fat diet was
Mhm.
very prevalent. I even remember um in college, so 2007, being I remember proud. I was like calling my mom and I was like, "Oh, yeah, I'm eating these granola bars. They're low fat." And my mom was like, well, be careful with that because if you remove the fat, they have to make it good somehow. So mostly like they're gonna increase the sugar. So just be conscientious of the sugar content." And I, like again, it's kind of like that rebellious stage. Yeah, whatever, mom. Okay, like I'm gonna do what I want for me. Like this low fat thing, it's a diet, and people are on it, and it's better for you.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's like funny how these like memories, these things that were told, like kind of I remember that. Weird. But yeah, so like, do you ever remember eating fat or was that part of your diet in the bodybuilding?
You
Yeah.
know, I really don't know how much fat was in there, to be honest with you, because
Yeah.
my first breakfast, I mean, I was up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Luckily, there was a gym at the place of my employment because I was living in Kentucky at the time, and I'd go in and work out for 2 hours, and then I'd have to be in my office about 7:30, 8 o'clock. I'd eat, which was a 3 ounce piece of chicken, usually a little bit of small salad, and
Mhm.
that was it. Or some oatmeal, and then 2 hours, 3 hours later, I was eating another 3 ounce piece of chicken, more salad. I'd have 6 eggs, six boiled eggs, two with yolks, the other four without yolks, just the whites.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, it was another 3 ounce piece of chicken. At night, I basically would have my steak,
Okay.
and I would have the fat with it. If there was fat on it, I would have the fat with that.
Okay.
And then really my sugar fix for me was I'd go buy those packages of rice cakes.
Uh-huh.
I would mix me a huge protein shake, and my fix was dipping the rice cakes into my protein shake. So
Yeah.
that's that was my fix. I used to call it my fix. My girlfriend
Yeah.
that I was with at the time would always make it, and she'd even look over. She says, "Is it time for your fix?" And I'm like, "Yes, please." And she'd go mix me a protein shake and bring me a whole package of rice cakes.
That's so funny. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, um, I hear, or, I heard a little bit of fat in there, some egg yolks and steak. But yeah, not a lot of emphasis on fats in your diet. And I think when people look up to people who are in shape, well, we're looking at bodybuilders, right? And from what I understand, bodybuilders, in order to be that lean and in shape, you are in a cutting phase, and which is pretty hard on your hormones, right? And then you come out of that phase and you get your well, the bulk phase, right?
Yeah,
Where you're allowed to eat more carbs and all that, and then and then you go, so you're always kind of in this swing where you're bulking, you're cutting, bulking, cutting. And I know it's very challenging on your hormones and stuff. And as we know, with having low fat diet too and not having those good fats, it also messes with your hormones, right? So it's interesting. So yeah, I don't know, I found that like interesting that, if you're looking up to someone who's in shape, or when you get a nutritional coach, or if you even Google lose weight diet, what you're going to find is a lot of chicken and salad, chicken and vegetables, not barely any fats in there, or
correct.
avoid saturated fats with butter and red meat and egg yolks, coconut oil.
Even some carbs, right? Because
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard of
Yeah.
people being on a no carb diet, and for me, I don't like sweet potatoes, and that was
Hmm.
part of my diet. So
Oh,
I didn't have any. And I found myself at work being very irritated, and I couldn't concentrate. And I was talking to my trainer, and he was asking me how the diet was going, and I says, well, at first I didn't like it because I was sick of eating, and about the second week I'd eat, and an hour after I ate I was freaking hungry. I couldn't wait to eat. and,
Yeah.
and I says, but I'm having a hard time focusing, I'm having a hard time concentrating. And I says, and I'm not liking it because I work in a manufacturing place around high speed machinery, and you've got to
Oh,
be careful what you're doing. And he says, well, what are you doing? And I told him, and he goes, well, where's your carbs?
yeah.
Like, I don't know. I don't like sweet potatoes. I told you that before. He goes, holy shit, put a baked potato in there. I don't care, but get some carbs in
Yeah.
there. And as
Yeah.
soon as I did, everything came back. And it's crazy how you said even with the bulking stage, because the day the day of the competition, you go in and you have to weigh in, and literally when you weigh in and go through the first little morning routine, the judges already know who's going to win. They're watching you, they're picking. They could be looking for upper body that day, or they could just looking for legs, or they could just be looking for definition. There's all kinds of things that they decide what they're going to look for that day, and that's going to decide
Yeah.
who wins. However, once we weighed in and we went through that first 2.5 hour worth of stuff of the competition before the night show, my trainer was there competing with me, and he goes, okay, now we're going to IHOP. And he says, we're going to eat as many freaking waffles and pancakes as we can fit in us. And I'm like, whoa, what do you mean? And he goes, because it will literally swell your body. So you look bigger than what you did when you weighed in. And I'll be damned. I mean, I was shocked because I was ripped. I was ripped. I depleted way too quickly. You could see every striation. My obliques were ripped. I lost some muscle mass because I depleted too quickly. But man, the night of the night show, after going and eating 6 waffles and some eggs and sausage and
Oh,
bacon,
yeah.
whatever I could fit in my stomach without puking, and I'm getting
Yeah.
ready for the competition, and I got my shirt off, and I'm like, holy
Who
crap,
dat?
where did that come from? It's like,
Superman.
oh,
Yeah, yeah.
so that's when I
Yeah.
realized how important really nutrition is to the body, and how quickly our bodies can change just by
Yeah.
nutrition. However, again, I don't really think that was the healthy way of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Because
like
it's such,
gymnastics.
right, yeah. It's such a vicious change on your body, like yeah, a quick,
Yeah.
so drastic, such a drastic change. But yeah, it's so interesting. So like when I went keto and cut out carbs, I read, oh, like so water, um, you're going to flush water through your body a lot faster than if you were eating carbs because carbs hold the water weight. And so when you talk about getting your swole on, yeah, like the eating carbs and water together, that's where that swollen swole comes
Yeah.
from. Um, you know, try a day without any carbs and you'll feel shredded almost instantly. Um, and then you talk about not being able to focus, being so low carb. Well, without those carbs to hold on to water and sodium and minerals, you have to supplement with salt and potassium and get your minerals in there. So um when you cut something out of your diet that is part of a balanced diet, what happens is it creates this imbalance, right? And so you have to make up for it in other areas. And that's where like cutting out one food group is not great. I think if something's going on with you or trying to figure something out, doing elimination diets can be so great. You can discover so many things about, oh, I don't tolerate this vegetable that well. Oh, if I this gives me that symptom or whatever. So I think elimination diets are a great temporary um option to discover what's going on with you and get more in tune with your body. But overall, the balanced whole food diet is going to be the best thing for you because like you said, you you cut out one food group and it creates this imbalance within your gut brain connection, right? You
Yeah.
decrease your carbs, your brain is like, what the heck is going on? You need glucose. Our bodies run on glucose. Um so mm, So yeah, it's all very interesting and lots of trial and error. Um, but to go back to you saying like, oh, I've never heard of ghee before. Um, with so many different allergies popping up today, and I feel like I don't know if I've heard and I've read that there are more allergies to things today than there ever were, right? Like nuts and dairy and certain, allergies to plants outside and mold and all these things. So many different allergies. And so what's interesting with ghee is that a lot of people have dairy intolerances and they are intolerant to the lactose or to the casein or to the whey, which are the milk solids you find in dairy and milk, in cheese and in butter. So the process of clarifying butter, the removing of those milk solids gets rid of those common allergens, those digestive irritants. So so a lot of people who are dairy intolerant can tolerate ghee and they can have this healthy fat back in their diet. So it's getting more. I would say it's still quite new to the States. It's quite popular in Asia. But here it's still something very new. So you're not like the only person. But yeah, and so that's I think why the process of like discovering this, oh, let's clarify butter and I can get butter back in my diet. It's a really great option for people who are dairy intolerant.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I want to get into more of the geek because when you said you're hiking, and you've got your stuff there and you're taking it and you're like, huh. Before we step into that though, just so our listeners know again how important it is for the gut and the brain to be fed the proper nutrition. And I was sharing on the show this morning that I must have gotten some bad food or something. I think I got a bug in my stomach where everything I eat just runs right through me. So I know my body's not getting the nutrition and I know my brain's not getting the nutrition.
Yeah.
And I was telling the beautiful lady that I was interviewing this morning that my concentration and my focus on things is completely, it's like it's not even there. It's like I don't even have it. And I was struggling with it about 2 weeks ago. I'm thinking, gosh, what the heck is going on with me, man? Do I got something else happening? Or, and I'm starting to think of all this stuff. And then all of a sudden it dawned on me. I'm not getting the nutrients that I need because everything's being flushed right out of me. So
Yeah.
no wonder, plus whatever's happening inside my gut that's causing it, it's not feeding the brain because it's not giving it that opportunity. And
Mm-hmm.
so now I'm like, okay, something's got to be happening here, right? So now I'm scrambling, trying to get all this stuff. Matter of fact, I just took some stuff to a lab yesterday to get tested,
Yeah.
just so I can see which direction I need to go. Because I was thinking, well, I just got to make sure, be careful what I'm eating, and do this and do that. But after a
Mm-hmm.
certain amount of time, I'm going, yeah, there's something wrong, and especially when I'm not able to focus, because and my energy level's gone. I mean,
Oh yeah.
normally I'm go, 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 and I'm within 2 hours at work, and it's like I'm dragging butt.
Right. Yeah,
When you're,
right. Your body is not getting something it needs, so it's going to send you a signal to say, hey,
yeah,
I'm not getting something I need, which is, you're not being able to focus. And in an ideal world, your body is fighting something, so you're not able to focus and your energy levels are low. So that should tell you, hey, I should be resting right now and just giving my body the time it needs to heal. But we live in a modern world where there are expectations, we have work, and and we don't really get to lay down and rest for a day, a week, however long this is going on. Um, so um So yeah, so like our bodies are always signaling to us, telling us what to do, and we can't always give it what it needs, and so it's just and that kind of falls in line where we go to the doctor and we say, give me something to fix this,
yeah,
at least you're like, hey, what's going on? What's in here? What do I need to be concerned about something? And hopefully you can get to the root cause, right? It's always about finding the root cause of something.
yeah.
Um, because sometimes, yeah, rest is not going to cover it. But it's just funny, like the body is smart and it does try to tell you what it needs.
Yeah, and you said it earlier, Krista, about listening to the body as well. Because if we are really in tune with our body, it'll let us know. It will definitely
Mm.
let us know something's not quite right.
Yeah.
So to get in, because I want our listeners definitely to know more about Hunghee. You
Hmm.
know, so you did some research. You found out no one was really putting these two things together, and
Yeah.
basically you just kind of started messing around with stuff at that time to see where it would go.
Yeah, so I guess the whole concept, we all need energy to survive, and our energy comes from calories, which are made up of nutrients, which are our major macros and micros. So when you look on the back of a package, you see total fat, fats broken down, saturated fat. Sometimes it has monounsaturated, polyunsaturated, your cholesterol, your sodium, your total carbs, which is broken down into fiber, sugar, and then your protein. Um, so we all so most people think of energy as, oh, caffeine or sugar to get energy, but energy comes from food. It comes from real food. So so mainly because I'm an athlete and I'm out mountain biking and snowboarding and hiking, I think of, on the go nutrition and energy bars, energy energy bars, and people think of, an energy bar is something you take with you on the go nutrition. And so I was like, okay, well, I need something like on the go, and what is going to be what's going to provide longevity of the activity and the kind of quick boost energy to the strength to get you through that activity. So when you think of quick energy, how your body processes food to get quick energy, sugar, right? Simple sugars, simple carbs. Um, and when you think of longevity throughout an activity, that's something that's going to sustain you. You get that energy from fats. So in my head, I'm thinking I need a quality fat, a quality sugar. Um, and when you combine sugar and fat together, you won't get that sugar spike. So when you eat sugar by itself, you're gonna get that energy and then you're gonna crash. Um, like like an apple has sugar in it, but it also has fiber in it. So lots of sugar and things that exist in nature that are carbs actually have fiber in it to do its natural way it's supposed to be digested, which is like, slower, and it gives you the energy, but it doesn't spike your blood sugar. It's when food is processed that it gets stripped of its nutrients and its fiber, and that gives you just something with just pure sugar in it, and it's going to spike your blood sugar and crash. So when you eat it with fat, fat acts as an insulin buffer to the sugar. So, um, so you get that delivered, sustained, kind of steady release of energy. So I'm thinking good fat, good sugar. Well, I love butter. um, and but butter is requires refrigeration, and I've always eaten ghee, and ghee, it does not require refrigeration. It has a shelf life of at least 18 months. So I just kind of off the bat, and I was used to taking the ghee and the honey with me. So I already knew, like, subconsciously that combination tasted great. It's my good fat, my good sugar. So it's kind of already on to something there by already having those things. But I guess, like, well, why did you know to bring the honey and the ghee with you, right? And so I guess same thing, like when I would go to the grocery store and try to find a good energy bar or good snacks to take with me, you're pretty limited. You got trail mix, or you got these bars with these synthetics, processed sugars. Sometimes you don't even know what the heck's in it, natural flavors, preservatives. And I just wasn't happy with what I was seeing. And I was just ending up, cooking steaks and bringing steak up with me, beef jerky, beef bars, which is great. It has a lot of protein in it. But energy wise, you need good fat and you need good sugar. Protein is a recovery. It's great to have, but if you're talking about pure energy, you need the fat and the sugar, because protein is breaks down into amino acids that help rebuild the muscles that you just broke down. So if you eat protein and you're trying to PR or something, you're going to feel tired actually, or you're not going to feel an energy boost. So protein is something always great to take a few hours before you're doing that activity or after as recovery. And for the main event, you want good fats and good sugars. Hope I'm not losing you here. I
No,
can
no, not at all.
Okay. Um, so yeah, so that is kind of why I chose the ghee. I knew it would be a great source of fat. It shelf stable. If it, in the sun, in the heat, it's going to melt, but that's fine. In the cold, it's going to get harder and harden just like butter would. And then honey is, I knew I could count on that for my sugar source. So yeah, I thought, oh, I'm gonna like honey ghee, Hunghee for when you're hungry or Hunghee. So it's like kind of has like a lot of play on words there. And yeah, I just started thinking of like what would be some great flavors to add. What are necessary for the energy besides the sugar and the fat? Oh, well, we need salt. We need electrolytes, minerals. We're sweating, we're stressing, right? We're stressing our bodies out. We lose minerals when we do that. We need to replenish that. So I definitely, at the base of all the recipes of Hunghee is local raw honey, organic grass-fed ghee, and I'll tell you why I've chosen grass-fed, and raw honey specifically, and ancient sea salt. So local raw honey, organic grass-fed ghee, and ancient sea salt. And the reason, so that makes it the base of all the flavors. And the reason why I chose raw honey is because, again, everything we want to consume in its most purest, like natural raw form as much as possible. So a hive is about 90 degrees, and once you start heating honey above about 97 degrees, all those enzymes and minerals and B vitamins that are naturally occurring in raw honey get killed off. So,
Hmm.
so you're then left with just a sugar, all right? A stripped down honey when it's actually probably heated above a certain temperature kills everything and it's just like table sugar. So when we think about the foods we eat, we have to think about the nutrients that make up those foods. And that's what gives you, the ability to focus and your good blood and good building, rebuilding your tissues and rebuilding your cells and making sure your cells are good and all the cellular functions in your body are working properly, right? All those nutrients do that. So when we eat things like processed sugars or seed oils, they create inflammation in our body. So we want to avoid that as much as possible. Because inflammation leads to heart disease and metabolic syndrome and chronic fatigue and all these ailments that we experience with because of inflammation in our bodies. So I chose raw honey because it maintains all those amazing nutrients, 16 different enzymes, B vitamins, and electrolytes. Now, it is much harder to manufacture using raw honey than it is to heat it. And it's almost like water and it just goes wherever it needs and it can pump through easily and your machine can work much faster and you can make a lot more product. But I have the integrity with Hunghee to produce quality over quantity. And that's my goal for this product. Um, so with the ghee, the reason why I chose organic grass-fed ghee is because that has to do with what the animal is fed. And what is the animal is fed, and you eat that animal, it gets passed down into your body. So you want to be conscientious of that as well. And back in the day, before, um, you know, I guess, what is it called? Like mass farming, oh my gosh, I guess commercial farming, you would say.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
they were fed grains and stuff. Animals roamed free and ate grass. Ruminant animals ate bugs and grass, and that was their natural diet, and that's where they thrived. Um, so so the reason why it's so important that they eat their natural diet is because it changes them, and then it changes how our bodies receive those nutrients. And with grass-fed animals, you're just getting a much higher like profile of omega-3 fatty acids, which are super important. When you feed cows grain, it changes their fat content to omega-6 and omega-9. And if you Google eating too much omega-6s, it will literally say leads to inflammation in the diet, which can cause heart disease and this and that and that, and arthritis and all this stuff. So we don't, so, and think about the bulk of what we're eating. If we're getting now omega-6s from what we should be getting omega-3s from, and then we eat nuts, which are high in omega-6s, and now we're eating any kind of any kind of product that's on the shelf today, which has these seed oils in it, which are again these omega-6, omega-9. So you're just getting constantly an abundance of these inflammatory fats and oils. So grass fed is super important when you think of an animal product because it's getting fed its natural diet, and and then you know that the quality of their meat and their byproducts are going to be much um
More pure, I guess.
yeah,
Pure.
I was gonna say like the minimal amount of inflammatory like byproduct
Yeah.
from eating that product. So um and yeah, it was interesting. I was very careful to source my ingredients. I talked to all the different farmers and all my different suppliers about what they use and their practices, and had samples sent to me. And we even did a blind taste test of of a ghee that is called grass fed. But in order to be called there's no one really monitoring grass fed. It can say grass fed on the label, but that means that it's a minimum of 6 months out of the year that they're eating grass. So I had a sample of a product that was 6 months out of the year cows were fed grass and 6 months grain. And it's because they live in a winter environment, and that's just they do the best they can. So we got that sample. Then we got another source that was 100% grass fed. Um, and then we had another sample, which was 100% grass fed, but 70% of the herd was A2. So I'll get into that in a second. All these different, like, we're discovering all these, ways of consuming our animal products from like the way they should be, right? And so I did a blind taste test, and well, you can see it. The grain fed half the year was like a white color, and the other ones were like bright yellow. And I asked like, why is that the case? Like, what makes one more yellow than the other? And it's like, well, quality ghee butter, it should be yellow. Like that's a sign of good quality grass-fed ghee. I'm not sure of the science behind what makes it yellow. Um, but anyway, it should be. And so when I looked at them and I tasted them, I was like, oh, this one that's like the lighter color, it tastes rancid. It almost tastes rancid. It tastes disgusting. Like that's crazy because I've had this ghee before without knowing this and comparing it. So I was like, let's just see if it's all psychological, mix them up, give me a sample of them. And every time I could tell the grain-fed one, which just it had this nasty taste to it. So it does when you kind of get down to it and you sample these things next to each other, you can really be like, wow, there is a difference here. So the A2, there's this new thing called there's A1 dairy and A2 dairy. And when cows are fed grass, they produce A2 dairy. And A2 dairy is it we're finding that people who have dairy allergies can tolerate A2 dairy much better because, again, like the A1 dairy feeding cows grain, which is not their natural diet, it changes its makeup and you eat that and it's like, ooh, like we're not, our bodies can't handle that, which we should. So it's just it's very interesting how um the most like purest form of this food is what we're meant to eat and we have no issues. But then when man gets in there and messes with things and tries to make it, um, I don't know, cheaper, easier manufacturing, whatever, it becomes issues for us. So yeah, I get really nerdy about this stuff, but I want to understand like why and why is something the best quality and how can we feed ourselves the best nutrients possible. So I chose ancient sea salt, which is from Utah's Redmond's real salt, which is mined straight from the cave and maintains all its mineral content and it's never bleached. There's no plastics in it, like you find in some sea salts that because our oceans are getting polluted and stuff like
Yep.
that. So yeah, no additives, no bleach in it. I put a little bit of Redmond salt underneath my tongue every morning. I think it tastes so delicious and it replenishes, my electrolytes after a night of sleeping. And yeah, so that's the base of the recipe. The raw honey, organic grass-fed ghee, and ancient sea salt. And I think that's kind of this, in my opinion, it's like the trifecta of what is going to give you what you need to have good energy during your activity, or when you're just low on calories or you're stressed at work and you need to grab something to give you good nutrients, good
Yeah.
nutrition. So yeah, so I tested some other flavors and I added organic peanut butter to one of the recipes to make like a peanut butter frosting kind of flavor. I added organic cacao powder to one of the other flavors. It tastes like dark chocolate brownie batter. And the OG, which is just the honey, ghee, and sea salt, kind of tastes like a butterscotch or caramel. So those are the three flavors we have right now. Have a three more flavors will launch this December, and in the spring another three. I'm very excited about them all. And
So, so wait, your October's coming close. You don't have a pumpkin yet?
I know, right? Pumpkin spice.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, this is when they start throwing out pumpkin stuff, right?
yeah. Oh my gosh. I know. I
Yeah.
know. We will eventually have seasonal flavors. There will probably be a pumpkin one in there. But yeah, all of our ingredients are, I think, at the most five ingredients, but it is just that real food in its purest form. And it's hard to find. It was hard to source some of these ingredients that I was looking to come up with a berry flavor or lemon flavor, and it's just crazy how much crap is pumped into those foods. And I'm like, no, I just want the organic freeze dried powder
Yeah.
itself by itself. I don't want the corn syrup solids in it, and I don't want the soy lecithin in it, and I don't want these other preservatives or anti-caking agents. It's crazy. It's wild, just what's in our food. And so that's another thing about Hunghee is there are no preservatives, there are no emulsifiers, there are no natural flavors, artificial flavors, colorings, any of that stuff. It is real food. Um, and there are downsides to that, like every time you grab the packet, you got to knead it. Make sure, it's all good and mixed because if it melts or separates, it could separate like real peanut butter, the
Mhm.
oil
Yeah,
separates from the peanuts. But I think there's a demand. People want real food. They want nutrition. They know how it's affecting their gut and their brain and their daily lives. And people are tired of feeling sick. They're tired of not understanding their weight gain and they're tired of not sleeping right and not focusing right. And we boil it down to what we feed ourselves. But there's a lot of nuance there, and there's a lot of education, and there's a lot of trial and error, and it's a lot. It's a lot. So I hope that my products can offer people that relief where we could be a brand that people trust again. And not only is it good for you, but it's tasty, like you said.
yes,
Thanks so
it
much
is.
for trying it and loving it. And it is really delicious. It's almost like you're like, really? Like how is this really healthy for me? Because it tastes so good.
Yeah.
It's like a brownie batter frosting. And yeah, so good food, like when you're eating really, truly good food, it does taste good. Healthy food does taste good. And for so long, it's gotten a bad rap, like, oh, healthy food's going to taste nasty, but it doesn't have to. And that's kind of the narrative I'm trying to change with Hunghee too.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, it is all tasty. I mean, really is. I mean, every sample that I tried, I'm like, my gosh. And other people that was there at the group, they were all saying the same things. Like, I can't believe this is good for you. Because I think I heard someone say, "It's gosh, it tastes like I'm taking the licking the bowl for
Yeah,
cake
yeah.
frosting," right? And I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
no kidding. It kind of tastes that way.
Yeah.
And you can do that and not feel guilty, you know?
Right. Yeah, exactly. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how can people find your product? Because I know you guys are really starting to get yourselves out there. You're looking at really getting some packaging lines going to help produce. Because I know you and your husband Abe have been doing this by hand for a long time, and it takes a lot of time
Yeah.
to do. So, but how can people find you? Because I tell you what, whenever I go into a health store, I do. I'm looking for Hunghee because I'm waiting for the day it's going to be popping up in the
Yeah.
stores, which I know will come, right? It takes time to get there,
Yeah.
but I'm a firm believer that you guys got something amazing and that it'll eventually get there. So for now, where do we buy it?
Yeah. The best place to support us is our website,
Okay.
hungeeenergy.com.
Hunghee what? Okay.
hungeeenergy.com. So yes, there are three E's in the center there. Yeah, go to our website. We ship to all 50 states, so you can get it anywhere in the states. And I also have a lot of information on our FAQ page about like my story and like why we use this and how you're supposed to use it and a lot of common misconceptions on food kind of that we've talked about today, so and a lot of great resources. So for people who want to know more about what we're talking about today and like the healthy fats, saturated fats versus these polyunsaturated fats that we've been told to eat, like what's the science there and where are you basing this off of, and go to that page or my FAQ page and scroll down to common misconceptions. And I have a lot of great resources there, a lot of great book references to read. And yeah, don't be feel free to start a dialogue with me. I'm super nerdy about this stuff and I'm always learning too, and things are always changing. So we're always in a phase of learning and being open-minded. Um, but yeah, hungeeenergy.com is the best way to support us. If you're local to Salt Lake City, we are in a few stores. We actually just got our first order from Redmond, so it'll be in
Oh,
Redmond stores in a couple weeks. Um,
congrats.
yeah, thank you so much. We're really excited about that because we use their salt, of course, and everyone who's shopping at Redmond, we feel like would love our product. They're looking for, that really good quality health food. We will be in Shields at some point this winter, probably December, January. And yeah, we're starting to talk to a bunch of different stores now. So hopefully over the next couple months, over the next year, you'll see us in at least throughout Utah in the local grocery store. We really want to build a community here and be, a Utah brand, and we want people to come and visit Utah and try Hunghee and go home and be like, man, well, we need to have that here. um, but yeah, and still the best way to support us will still always be our website, because that's in our control, um and that those purchases directly support us.
Okay.
But yeah, so you can check out our Instagram as well. We love putting out entertaining, funny videos that are educational, but also just entertaining. We also put out some of our lifestyle videos, just Abe and I mountain biking and hiking, and kind of, you guys can get a feel for who we are as people that just love the outdoors and love our community and love health food. And then you'll come across some videos of me nerding out about, hey, let's talk about natural flavors today, what they are and why we don't use them. Let's talk about seed oils. Have you heard this? Like how to look out for them on your labels, like just kind of spreading awareness and education. So give us a follow on Instagram. We really appreciate it. We're growing our Instagram following. So yeah, website and Instagram for some good information. You can always reach out to us and we'll chat with you and maybe we can go mountain biking or hiking together. So yeah, we're friendly couple, friendly group of people. And yeah, we just want to keep spreading our reach throughout the community.
Yeah. Well, and one thing I admire about you and Abe is you guys are out there to help individuals. You want to help build a better and healthier community. And anybody that's in that realm, I'd love to support. I don't know, maybe something for you guys to think about down the road is maybe looking at getting to some of these recovery centers as well, because as I'm sure you know, a lot of people that go to these recovery centers are definitely malnutritious when they go in. And my good friends Dave and Suze Kenny from Canada, the ones who trained me to be a crisis and recovery coach, they owned a recovery um, business in Canada. And then, of course, when COVID hit, they shut them down. They couldn't have it anymore. But what they learned is about the brain first approach, about feeding the brain healthy nutrition. And they wouldn't even sit down and work with a client the first 2 weeks they walked in their door. They literally just fed them proper nutrition. And it made it so much easier for them to work with these individuals because they started firing healthier neurons. Of course, they still had a long ways to go. However,
Yeah.
it really started putting them at a level to where they could focus, they could listen, they could pay attention in just a short 2 weeks time. And they would bring everybody who was there in to help cook the dinners, right? Everyone
Yeah.
had a little specific thing and they would trade off, whether it was setting the table or getting the dishes out or whatever it may be to help cooking the meal or preparing the meal. And they did that on their own as their own expense. They didn't add that extra expense into their clients
Yeah.
because it was something they just felt was important to do. So I don't know, just throwing something out there that maybe down the road, because I know I think you have met Jessica Endicott. She was there at the Park City High School that time when we all kind of met and you guys was doing your sample and thing. And
Yeah.
we've been talking about doing a sober living and that way to where no sober living, as far as we know in Utah, is doing proper nutrition. And it's time we
Yeah.
start adding proper nutrition in with this to help all of us, you
Oh
know?
yeah. Yeah. I think that's just our baseline is feeding ourselves right. And like you said, what goes into our gut affects the brain. Um, so yeah, it all starts with what we eat. What is that phrase? Like we are what we eat,
Yeah,
and it really is
yeah,
true. Um, so yeah, we someone had mentioned, I don't know if you've heard of this program before, but Addicts to Athletes. And
yeah,
it's like a
yeah.
program.
They've
Yeah.
been on the show.
Oh, great. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah, a woman who works for our honey guy, Hollow Tree Honey, is our honey supplier. So Tom, one of his workers, I'm blanking on her name, but her sister like works for that program, and she was saying, oh, you should reach out, and I think this will be such a great um snack for them, like
absolutely. Well, and fit to recover is
yeah,
huge, right? They're
yeah.
really huge. And one thing too about a lot of these recovery places is because when my ex-wife was in recovery, I would go play sober softball back before I blew all both my shoulders out. But a lot of these individuals who play in sober softball, they take it very, very serious.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
those are things they could use during
Yeah.
their softball.
And I forgot to bring this up, but another like great thing in kind of restarting and like you said, if anything's, going wrong in your life and you're noticing these how it's affecting your life, starting with nutrition and starting with the gut. And something that's really great about ghee is that it's anti-inflammatory and it's gut healing. So ghee has the highest amount, or at least one of the highest amounts of butyric acid. Um, how it's spelled is Butyeric, I believe, butyric acid, and that helps rebuild your gut lining. So for
Hmm.
um, people who have struggled with addiction, especially alcoholism, where you are really destroying your gut lining, um, people who've abused pills, and even for me, I didn't struggle with addiction, but I was taking so many of these anti-inflammatories. They destroy your gut lining. Eating processed foods and our a lot of our wheat and grain have glyphosate in them, and that destroys your gut lining. These, guar gums and fillers that are in our food and preservatives destroy our gut lining, right? So you're seeing this trend here in our food.
Yeah.
So even if you don't like Hunghee or you have no interest, just look into the benefits of ghee as it's very medicinal in Asia and other cultures in India. They use ghee as medicine. I mean, they cook with it, but it is medicine. So, and that's kind of what we should be looking at our food as. Food is medicine and it can heal you. So it's pretty incredible. The body is incredible. And what what our bodies can do with feeding it properly is being your own health advocate. I know we talked about this on the our first time chatting about how you really have to be your own health advocate today,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of information out there, and that's great, and there's a lot of easier access to information that with social media. um but that also is twofold. You can be so overcome with information you don't know what to do. Or you go to a doctor and conventional medicine is here's a pill to fix that, which then causes this issue, which then causes that issue. So sooner than later you're on 15 different medications. What the heck's going on?
Yeah. That's
So
true, though. It's true. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. And so if we can just take it back to the basics, like with Hunghee, I call it ancestral energy. What would our ancestors eat? What would our ancestors have access to back before the, industrial revolution, before our food got all, mass produced and full of chemicals and pesticides and all this stuff. And, what would our ancestors eat? So back then, what would our ancestors turn to for medicine? It's
Yeah.
to our food. Yeah.
So one last question. Which ghee do you recommend?
Yeah. If you're at the grocery store, I would highly recommend uh I think it's called Ancient Organics.
Okay.
Ancient Organics ghee is phenomenal. Um, Of course, I would highly recommend where we get our ghee from, and they are called Spring Sunrise. They they might be in some local stores to where are they? Idaho or maybe California, because they source their butter from California. So they might have their jars in local stores in Idaho, but their website, Spring Sunrise,
Okay.
is great to order from. But yeah, Ancient Organics at the grocery store, I've seen that in most grocery stores. It is expensive, expect to spend $25 on a jar of ghee, but you're gonna get so much more nutrition out of it, nutrient density, right?
Yeah.
Um, you can only really eat so much fat and so much protein because it's so full of nutrients. Um, when we eat, processed foods, we can eat so much of it because, well, I'm hungry, I'm hungry. Your body's saying, I need more nutrients. Unfortunately, those calories increase because you're trying to get the amount of nutrients that's just been removed from all our processed food. So you can eat so much. So that's where like weight gain comes in, and the our insulin resistance. Our pancreas produces insulin when we eat sugar and carbs to take that sugar and deliver it throughout our body. But when we have an overabundance of that and our insulin is overworked and overworked, it just
Stores
like,
it.
yeah, it stores it, and it stores as triglycerides, as fat. Whereas when you eat, you can only eat so much fat. Try eating a ton of fat, and there's no way you'll stop. And your body breaks that down into essential fatty acids, which go throughout the entire body. All your cells and your brain use all those healthy fats um, to um, to do every cellular function in your body. It's pretty incredible. So yeah, um, a lot of those uh, a few references for some books that I would recommend to really understand your body and how your body operates and what it does with these nutrients can help you make better choices as well. Sometimes if you're just told, well, eat this or eat that because that's good for you, but you don't really understand why, it's hard to stick to that. And as we know, we want to stick to it's a lifestyle eating healthy. It's not a diet that's temporary. It's a lifestyle. So yeah, so it's really important to understand how the body operates, and Carnivore Code is a great book by Dr. Paul Saladino. Fat Chance is another great book by Dr. Robert Lustig, and Primal Blueprint is another great book by Mark Sisson. And once you start getting to the second book, you're going to be like, so the first book, you might just be like, well, I don't really understand what I'm reading here. But take your time with it, digest it. And by the second book, you're going to hear the same information, be like, oh, okay, now I kind of know what they're talking about. And by the third book, you're like, yeah, I got this. But it's complicated stuff, the
Yeah.
body's incredible, it's complicated stuff, and we should understand how the body works and operates. And that helps that's part of education too, and picking better choices and knowing why you're choosing the nutrition that you are.
Yeah. I love it. Krista, thank you so much for sharing all your knowledge and information and how you got Hunghee, started. I mean, it's amazing. It's really is amazing. And again, I respect and look up to you guys for doing this and getting yourselves out there in the community and wanting to make a change and help people become healthier. And I mentioned this in the first show, and gosh, we are just so damn lucky to have the FDA, aren't we? Because they're making sure our food is really poisoned for us.
Yes.
We are so lucky to have them. And I'm
Yeah.
saying that sarcastically, guys, because I have not believed in the FDA for years, and I really don't believe in them now. Because they're allowing food companies to put stuff in our food that we do not need to be partaking in at all. Period. But they're the ones who's supposed to regulate it to make sure that we are getting healthy stuff when we're not. So I just had to throw that out there. And that has nothing to do with Hungy. This is coming from
Yeah,
me. This is coming from me,
yeah.
But anyway, we're lucky that we have people like Krista and Abe and other individuals who are now starting to educate us on what to look for and the proper nutrition to have, and definitely with this stuff, Hungy for energy. Buy some of this Hungy. Try it. Don't buy a energy drink. Just get some of this stuff and give it a shot before you go on a hike or a bike ride or go snowboarding or water skiing, whatever the heck it is that you enjoy doing. Give that a try first. Don't you agree?
Yes, yes, thank you. And let us know. Let us know how you feel. We love feedback. We love to hear how you're using it and what you like about it. And you'll notice a difference too. Like you'll notice the real food and how you feel. And you won't have that sugar spike and crash, and you'll feel great. You'll feel good. You'll feel solid. And plus it's tasty and yeah. So yeah, let us know. Let us know what you think. And yeah, we're just
Okay.
excited to get the community on board.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you guys. And if there's anything we can do further here on this end, please let us know. When you get some other stuff that's getting ready to launch, if you'd like to come back on the show again and discuss that, you guys, this is what this platform is for, and some people may say, well, what did this really have to do with addiction? We spoke just a little bit about addiction at the end, but I tell you what, nutrition has everything to do with addiction. Everything. So, you know, and I think a lot of my longtime listeners understand that. That's the reason why I want to bring people on that talk about nutrition, because it is very important, because we've depleted our bodies so long during the addiction, and our body's hurting and it's starving for something good. And to know what's out there and what's healthy, in my eyes, is very important. So again, thank you guys. I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you so much, Al, for having us on. And yeah, we're excited. We're grateful to know you and to be a guest on this podcast. You're doing such amazing work in your field. And yeah, like you said, there's nutrition affects everyone, um, whether you're think you're super healthy or you're struggling. And yeah, even myself, I was addicted to sugar. I'll tell you, like addicted to sugar, and finding proper nutrition helped me get through that as well. So yeah, thank you so much. I look forward to chatting you, and maybe our new flavors come out, or our jars will be available soon. And so yeah, I'd love to talk about that and see
Okay.
what you guys think. Cool.
Well, thank you so much. And again, hey, thank you to all our guests, all our future guests, all our listeners. You guys are the ones that's making this possible. Oh, yeah. And one last thing, too, guys. Remember, mark your calendars for Saturday, October 5th. We've got our fourth Healing Utah Success Summit coming up. You can go to rushrecovery.com to get your tickets. They're only $25. Rush is spelled Ruesch, recovery.com. It's at the Miller Free Enterprise Building in Sandy from about 10 to 3:30. We've got 5 speakers. We'll be touching base on nutrition, brain health, addiction. Um, I'm actually going to be talking about victim mentality. So we've got a lot of great things, and we've got some people coming all the way down from Canada to launch the event. We've got New Human as well, who has joined forces with us. These guys are something new that are really, they are busting butt to get out there and create a new human, which Hunghee falls underneath that, right? It's all about proper living, proper nutrition, proper thinking, good energy, positive energy. No more of this negative crap that we've got going around us. It's time we're going to change our world. So, guys, we're going to leave you with this, as we always do. Remember, addiction is giving up everything for one thing, and recovery is giving up one thing for everything. We're out.